my name is Maylin and welcome back to my channel. I'm a flutist, performer, and music teacher located in the city of Kamloops, British Columbia, and this is my channel where we do all things flute, so thank you so much for joining me here today. In today's video, we're going to be learning high F sharp and high G, so if you're interested, then just keep on watching. As always, if you have any questions about the video, please feel free to drop them in the comment section down below. I do my best to answer them as soon as I see them. Also, if you have any issues when it comes to practicing, feel free to check out my free practice guide, also located in the description down below. It gives you 8 really easy steps to follow to help guide your practice sessions. Alright, so let's just get right into today's video. Of course, we're going to be continuing on with my favorite book here, the Trevor Wise Beginner's Book for the Flute, Part 2. And today we're going to be going over quite a few pages, but we're going to start on page 81, and we're going to be starting with the fingering for F sharp and G. So I'm going to put it up right over here. So of course, it is, again, very similar to the F sharp below. All you're going to be doing is you're going to be lifting up your middle finger there in your left hand, and that's pretty much it. That's the only difference between the F sharp that is lower and this F sharp. Of course, it is going to be at the higher range, so again, focusing on working on all of your technique, as I mentioned in episode 49 when we started talking about all of the high note or the high register here, it will apply. So let's play that, and this is what the F sharp sounds like. Alright, and just to let you know, there is an alternate fingering if you find that your F sharp is a little bit too sharp when you're practicing it. Of course, you want to be making sure that you're focusing on things like your breath support, your tone, and your overall embouchure. But if you find that the F sharp is sitting sharp, you can also alternatively use the alternative fingering, and that's just moving your finger that's down on your right hand from your ring finger to your middle finger. So that'll bring down the pitch ever so slightly, but again, you really want to make sure that you are practicing it with the correct fingering, but I figured I would let you know just in case you needed it. And then of course we're going to be doing that high G now, so again, very similar to the fingering, the octave below. All you're going to be doing is lifting the thumb in the back, and this is what the G sharp sounds like. Very nice. Alright, so now that we've gone over the fingering for F sharp and G, let's do some warm-up exercises. So I'm only going to go through 3 out of the 5 that Mr. Y has written here. So I'm just going to put down number 1. So this is again just under the fingering chart on page 81. So we're not going to go through any of the starter bits here, just a few things to point out that we are in D major, so making sure that you're playing, of course, as we just learned, F sharp and also your C sharps as well. We're in 3/4 time, so 3/4 notes of measure, and here we do have a repeat, so again, in your practice session, make sure that you are playing the repeat, but just for demonstration purposes, I'll just be playing it through the 1 time. Of course, before you start playing, make sure that you do write in any of those letter names, especially if you're not comfortable still reading in all the high letter lines there, because you want to make sure that you are learning them correctly, because eventually the more you see it, the more it'll just become second nature to you reading these high notes. And of course, just make sure that you are paying attention to the rhythm in the 4th bars. There we have the dotted quarter and the 8th note. Otherwise, it's just pretty straightforward with half notes and quarter notes. Alright, so now I'm going to play it for you on the flute. Again, I'm not going to be doing this with a metronome. This is something that you can take at whatever tempo that you like. So if you want to take it really nice and slow and even slower, that's totally okay. Or if you do want to work a little bit more on your finger technique, once you are comfortable with all the notes and the fingerings, then I would recommend trying and playing it at a faster tempo. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Alright, so that's going to be that first exercise there. And again, I would highly recommend, if you're not comfortable and you don't feel like you're having a great idea of where to place those notes when it comes to your breath support, your air speed, and your embouchure, again, go back to playing the harmonics. So for fingering these notes with the harmonics, I'll just go over those really briefly. So for the D, of course, you're going to finger the low D. For the F sharp, you're only going to be able to do that if you have the B extension on your flute, so that's this guy here. If not, then you want to just finger the normal F sharp there. And E, you're going to want to use the low C partial, so low C fingering, and then same thing with the C. Otherwise, that covers all the notes there. Alright, and now we're going to be going on to exercise number 4. So this is the one over here. So this one, again, I'm just going to do some quick notes, not the recap. So we are playing in G major here, so making sure that you're playing that F sharp 4/4 time. There's a repeat there for you to practice when you're playing. Otherwise, nothing else to note. There is a breath mark written in between bar 2 and 3. But it's essentially just a G major scale going from that middle G all the way up to the high G there. And again, I'm going to take this at a moderate tempo, so make sure that when you are practicing it, that you do use a metronome as well. But if you just want to work on your tone specifically, then feel free to remove the metronome and just really listen to your sound, or also make sure that you do use recordings. So that means using your phone or using your computer, whatever you have, to be able to listen back to yourself with a kind of third person's perspective. So what I would do is I would listen, record myself here, and again, using whatever device you have, and pretend that it's not you and that you're listening to another friend playing, and give yourself tips that you would give to your friend. All right, so here we go. So 1, 2, 3. Alright, so there it is. And again, I would recommend using the harmonic fingerings, and then also try slurring this one as well. It'll definitely help you to get a better understanding of what your embouchure needs to change and what needs to change with your air support. So I'm just going to play that with it all slurred there. So I'm going to do 8 slurred and 8 slurred, but of course if you're having issues when it comes to breathing and you're not able to make those phrases, that's totally okay too. You can always just do 4 slurred, 4 slurred, or even 2 slurred, 2 slurred, or any combination of articulation there to kind of get yourself used to the fingering and also playing up in the higher register. So I'm going to be doing again 8 slurred, 8 slurred at the same tempo. 1, 2, 3. Very nice. And with these ones as well, you can always experiment with your dynamics, and that's going to be how you use your air. So the less air that you have, the tendency is for the pitch to go flat, but it'll also help to bring the volume of the sound down. So what you can do is you want to make sure that you're practicing your air speed, so that the air speed stays the same, although there's less air, and that'll help you with your dynamics as well. Alright, and then we're going to go on to exercise number 5, so I'm going to put that one over here. So this one, we're playing octaves, so this is going to be really important when it comes to training your ear with tuning. So I wanted to insert this one here just as a reminder that ear training is really important, and that you want to definitely use a tuner or a tuner app when you are going through these warm-up exercises to help train your ear to make sure that you're not playing them in a super sharp place or a super flat place, and that they're in a really nice in tune place. And of course, we'll just go through a few tips here. So again, we're in G major, so F sharp is all you're going to be worried about playing. It's in 3/4, and then of course when you're playing up in those high registers, making sure that you're writing in the notes if you're not comfortable with them yet. And this one's also going to be a great exercise for practicing with the N harmonic fingerings. For the D, you're going to be fingering the low D. For this E, you're going to be able to do that low C. You're not going to get that middle E there, so if you want, you can just use the E fingering. For the F sharps, if you want to, you can use the low B again if you have that. If not, then fingering the F sharp. And then for the G's, you're definitely going to finger that low C, and I think that covers all of the fingerings there. Alright, so I'm just going to play it as is here, and we'll take it at a nice moderate tempo again. So 1, 2. Alright, very nice. And I would challenge you to try and make that as musical as you can. So again, you can try slurring them together, try different dynamics, do lots of exploratory things with these warm-up exercises to really get the most out of playing these, and also getting used to playing in the high register. Alright, so now that we're warmed up, we're going to go on to our little study for today, and that's going to be hunting the hare. So I'm just going to put that right over here. This one's on page 85, so we are skipping a few pages here. So we'll go over our starter bits here, and then we'll of course clapping and counting, and then we'll get into playing the piece. So number one, we're looking at our key signature. So here we have two sharps, so F sharp and C sharp. So again, that could be D major or relative minor, B minor. So we're going to look at the first and last note to see if you have any indication of the tonic. So you start and end on a D. So again, highly indicates that we're in D major. We'll check just to see if we can find any indication of the minor key. So again, B minor is the minor key. We're going to go down one semitone to see if there's any leading tones, which would be A sharp or G sharp. I don't see any accidentals here, so we are in D major. 2, we're going to be looking at our time signature. So here we are in 6/8, so 6 8 notes per measure. So again, grouped in 3, so 1 2 3 4 5 6. Number 3 is our tempo indication, so allegro. So a dotted quarter equals 84, so that means you're going to get every 1 2 3 and then every 4 5 6. So that's when the metronome will hit. It'll be beat 1 and beat 4. Number 4, we're going to be looking at our articulation. So we don't have any slurs or any staccatos or anything written like that. So we're just going to be using our regular tonguing here. Number 5 is our dynamics. So we start on a forte, and then our second line we have fortissimo, so a double forte, and then we go back to a forte again in the third line. And then there is a decrescendo there on the second line going into that third line. And then number 6, we're going to be looking at our roadmap. So here we do have some repeats, so make sure that you are playing it right. And essentially, you're just repeating that first line. So you're going to play it once, play it twice, and then play it through all the way to the end there. Make sure that you do take note of where there are any markings. So we do have our fermata in the last bar of the second line. So making sure that you're holding that at least an extra beat and a half. Otherwise, that's pretty much it. Oh, and there's another one there on the last bar of the third line. So again, same thing. You want to hold it for the same amount of time. All right, now we're going to go over the clapping count. So again, this is going to be a dotted quarter equals 84. 1 2 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6. Well, you're gonna hold that. 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6. And of course, you're gonna hold that as well. And of course, if you find this a little bit too fast, definitely go back into the playback settings and change it so that it is a little bit slower there and clap along at a tempo where you are not making any mistakes. All right, now we're going to play that on the flute. So again, we're going to do that at the same tempo there. Dotted quarter note equals 84. And of course, make sure that you are writing in any of the letter names if you're having issues with them. I'm specifically looking here at the second line where we have lots of those high notes where we're repeating them a lot. So making sure that you know when you're repeating them and then when we move on as well. So for example, I'm looking at the second line, the first 2 bars. So those are essentially exactly the same. So F sharp, E, D, F sharp, E, D, F sharp, E, D, F sharp, E, D. Then making sure that you notice that it changes right away at the third bar. So you're going E, C, C sharp, D, E, C sharp, D, E, G, F sharp, E. So making sure that you're getting all of those notes correct there. All right, so now we're going to play it on the flute. 1 2 1 2 3. That one's definitely a fun little ditty. So again, really making sure that you're focusing on particularly that second line. I feel like that's going to be the trickiest part of this piece. So of course you want to change all the articulation if you're practicing this nice and slow and you're really wanting to make sure you're focusing on getting a really nice sound. So I would slur as much as you can, use those harmonics as much as you can, and again, focus on those 3 playing aspects. So your breath support, your embouchure, and then your finger technique at the end. And then hopefully if you have any issues, you should be able to work them out there all by yourself at this point. Okay, and now we're going to go back to page 83 here, and we're going to be learning the minuet, and I'm going to put it up right over here. So this is a nice little duet. Of course, the first part is going to play the primary melody with lots of the high notes there, but it's always important to make sure that you learn both parts so that you're learning the music equally and also you're practicing your low notes as well. Of course, we're going to go through the first 6 starter bits. We'll do a quick clap and count of both of the parts, and then we'll play it on the flute. So number 1 to start, we're going to be looking at our key signature. So we have 1 sharp in the key signature, so that means it can be G major or its relative minor, E minor. So we're going to look at the first and last notes to see if we have any indication of the tonics here. So we don't start on the tonic here, but we are on both of the notes in the primary triad, the tonic triad. So if you were to put a G there, we'd have B and D in thirds. And then we're going to look all the way to the end, and we do have both parts playing a G, so it's a high indication we're in G major. Of course, we're going to see if we have any indication of the minor key. So again, E minor is the relative minor. We're going to go down 1 semitone to see if we can find the raised 7th, which is going to be D sharp, and also to see if we can find some C sharps as well, which is the raised 6th. So I don't see any D sharps per se, but I definitely see some C sharps, so that's going to be important to note, but no real indication of the minor key, so we're in G major. 2, we're going to look at our time signature. So here we're in 3/4 time, and that means that there's 3 quarter notes per measure. 3 is our tempo indication, so here we have tempo di minuetto, so in minuet time, so a quarter note is going to equal 120 as the final tempo. Number 4 is our articulation. So here you definitely want to pay attention to where we have slurs and when we have staccatos and things like that. So especially in the first part, I've noticed that we do have slurs all over the place. There isn't necessarily a particular pattern except when it repeats in the thematic material. So if you look at the first line, you'll notice that we have a quarter and 2/8 notes, which is 1 tongued, 2 slurred, and then 2 tongued. So I do notice that comes back in the third line there of the first part, but otherwise there really isn't too much of a pattern going on. So just make sure that you are paying attention to where you are slurring and where you need to articulate it. Again, making sure that you, if you need to have any visual cues, that you color or circle it or do whatever you need to make sure that you catch all of those articulations. They're very important. And generally speaking, in the second part, we do echo the first part when the thematic material is the same. Yeah, just make sure that you notice when they are changing there. And number 5 is our dynamic. So here we're going to start at a mezzo forte. This is going to be for both parts. So we start at a mezzo forte. In the third bar, we have a crescendo going into a hairpin decrescendo there. Then we have a crescendo going into a long crescendo going through the first ending, and then decrescendoing right at the end before you repeat. Same thing with the second ending there. It's exactly the same dynamics. And then on the third line, we have a forte. So you're playing forte, then you have a decrescendo in the 4th bar to right down to piano, where we have a nice crescendo again, probably the mezzo, piano, mezzo forte, whatever you'd like. And then we have a decrescendo in the 4th line, 4th bar, down to piano. Playing piano up nice and high there, where we have a crescendo and another decrescendo into the 5th line there, where we then after that have a nice big crescendo where we're ending on a forte. And of course here in number 6, you definitely want to be paying attention to the roadmap. So here we have a repeat at the beginning. So we do see that we have a first ending. So what you're going to do is you're going to play through all the way up to the end of that first ending. Then you're going to repeat back up to the beginning. And then what you're going to do is you're going to play all the way to the first bar of the second line, and then you're going to skip, instead of playing the first ending, you're going to skip to the second ending, and then after that you're just going to play it from the second ending all the way up to the bottom. Make sure that you do take note of where we do have some markings here. So at the very end, we do have a rallentando, so making sure that you are slowing down gradually there, and then we also have a trill on that F sharp. So starting on that G if you'd like, and then coming down with the F sharp would be good. Perfect. So now that we've gone through the first 6 starter bits, let's clap and count. So again, I'm going to clap and count the first part, then the second part, and then we'll play it on the flute. 1, 2, 3, 1 and 2 and 3. 1, 2 and 3 and 1, 2, 3. 1, 2 and 3 and 1, 2, 3. 1, 2 and 3 and 1, 2 and 3 and 1, 2 and 3 and 1 and 2, 3. 1, 2 and 3 and 1, 2, 3. 1, 2 and 3 and 1, 2, 3. 1, 2 and 3 and 1, 2 and 3 and 1, 2 and 3 and 1, 2, 3. 1, 2 and 3 and 1, 2 and 3 and 1, 2 and 3 and 1, 2 and 3. 1 and instead of clapping the second part, I'm just going to skip it because essentially you are just playing half notes and quarter notes with a few eighth notes here and there. So just make sure that if you do have any issues with the clapping there, that you do it by yourself. Again, I used a quarter equals 120, but of course do it at a tempo where you're not making any mistakes. All right, now we're going to play it on the flutes again, the quarter equals 120. 1, 2, 3, 1, and 2, and... Very nice. So that might be a piece that you recognize. That's definitely a piece that I recognize. So I hope that you enjoy learning that on the first flute. And now we're going to play the accompaniment on the second flute. So again, it's going to be a quarter equals 120. 1, 2, 3, 1, and 2, and... This one's going to be really great. Make sure that you are paying attention when we do have like that low C sharp. So you're getting a nice fingering there, making sure you're getting all your fingers down so it's not sloppy. But it should be a really beautiful piece to put together. Hopefully if you have some flute friends, you can play along with them. I love this piece, and that's something I would have loved if I had this book growing up. And of course, if you do want to listen to the complete duet, it is going to be located at the end of today's video. Alright, so that's going to be it for today's video. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comment section down below. I do my best to answer them as soon as I see them. And also be sure to check out my practice guide if you're having issues when it comes to practicing. If you do like this video, please be sure to press the like button and also to subscribe for more videos just like this. I just want to thank you so much for joining me here today. And as always, happy fluting!